Hello everyone, I hope you're all well. Today I thought we could have a bit of a chatty catch up over a cup of tea. There's Sybil. What are you doing? I think there's something behind the bookshelf, even though I've checked and there's nothing there. And I did get something out from behind the bookshelf for her. I think she's still convinced that something's down there, so she's still being really annoying. We'll see how this goes. What? I've already helped. So yes, I thought we could have a bit of a bookish check-in. I think it's because it's this weird time between Christmas and New Year, and I don't really know what to do with myself. And I've just finished a book, and I feel like I need to start a new one, but I also feel really weird about starting a new book when it's not the New Year, because I won't finish it this year, and then it'll be this weird limbo book. I also don't know what I want to really read either. So I thought we could have a bit of a chat about that. I've just noticed Sybil behind the bookshelf. Wonderful. Then I thought we could go book shopping across kind of Blackheath and down to Greenwich, because it is the Waterstones 50% off sale on all hardbacks are on sale, which is the perfect time for me to get all of my big history books I've wanted pretty much all year. And so I'm definitely going to treat myself. I also realised that even though Greenwich is one of my favourite parts of London, it's probably one of the places I spend my most of my time, and it's also, I think, one of the very first places I visited when I was first dating Ben, so I think for both of us we're quite sentimental about Greenwich. But I realised even though it's been in like snapshots videos, kind of just little glimpses, I've never actually filmed an actual video where I'm just in Greenwich. So I thought you could come with me and just see some of that beautiful part of London. Even though I'm sure if you follow me on Instagram, you'll be very, very familiar. Are you done? So yeah, I think I'm going to make myself a cup of tea. I'm going to play with Sybil because that is obviously what needs to happen now, priorities. And then I thought I would check in with you a bit later. I thought while the tea is actually brewing, I'd tell you about the tea, which is a tea I mentioned a lot before, and it is Fairytale New York by Borman. It's my all-time favourite tea. It's a rooibos tea with cocoa and coffee beans and vanilla. It's the most festive tea, and because it is a festive tea, I stock up every year, and now I tend to have loose leaf tea over bags. I get a really good deal, so I've basically got enough of this tea to last me for the rest of my Christmases. But yeah, this is my favourite tea. Another investment I made this... I honestly cannot believe that just happened. This is a sign that Ben is not here today, because Sybil jumps on Ben all of the time and she never jumps on me. So the fact that she went for my head, not great when I was holding a scalding cup of tea, but there we are. But as I was saying, my other investment was this tiny little kettle. It's not a kettle, what do they call them? Teapot, a little teapot, because I tend to drink loose leaf. Ben is a big coffee drinker, and I got this really to sit on my desk, and it is obviously very hot because it's got boiling water on it, so I'm going to put it down in case Sybil decides to jump on me again. But I do regret not getting the bigger size. This is like their small size, the one person pot, and now I regret not getting the 2-person. But maybe I'll treat myself next year. So now I have my cup of tea, I'm ready to talk books, and I'm going to put it to the side now, which means that I'll put it to the side and then I'll forget that I made a cup of tea, and then it'll be cold and I'll have to microwave it, which is what happens every single time I make a cup of tea. I just wanted to share some of my thoughts and actually ask for some book recommendations, because I have spent 2021 primarily reading non-fiction, which has been me in my ultimate happy place, trust me. And I've been to lots of Tudor lectures or history talks and history lectures this year, which is a big part of my personality, for those of you who don't know. For me this year, discovering non-fiction books was really like going back, like returning back to myself, and in a lot of ways it's felt like the most Claire reading year. But now I feel like I've actually spent the whole year reading history books, and when I read Piranesi and was actually really struck by the imagination in that book, I think Piranesi is probably the only, actually it's not true because I read Beautiful World, Where Are You, and I reread some Thomas Hardy, but I think most recently Piranesi has been the book that has reminded me about the wonders of fiction, and now I kind of miss reading fiction. And I kind of want to go back into that world, but now I don't really know what to do because I've just been putting so much non-fiction into my brain that I now can't make a decision about what to read next. But I think I have made a decision. I realise I'm not completely in between books because I am reading The Crown and Sceptre. Well, wow, thanks Sybil. The Crown and Sceptre by Tracy Borman. And I really love Tracy Borman. I bought this after I went to see her talk. She's a really, really accessible historian, and I bought this because I feel like I know quite a lot from the Wars, the Roses, the Tudors, onwards really, in terms of our kind of the English monarchy, the British monarchy. This is a sign that I should not have even attempted to film a video today. It just wasn't going to happen. I'm sure if you live in a house in which you have multiple rooms, you can go in and lock yourself in a film. But if Sybil is just having a complete zoomy day, there is nothing I can do. There is no room I can really go in to film. So that's what that is. I honestly think it's because both Ben and I work from home together, so we're always together. It's quite rare that actually one of us goes out without the other. Obviously it happens, but whenever Ben goes out, she always just goes completely insane. I think it's because one of us isn't always giving her the attention she kind of needs, and she's a kitten, she's a young cat, so she needs a lot of stimulation. She's kind of like me, not gonna lie. Yes, she's back. I wish that I had like another camera to like point at her. She's just full zoom. Anyway, I can't remember what I said, but I'm currently reading, I'm not completely in between books because I'm currently reading The Crown and Sceptre by Tracy Borman. I'm currently on Edward III in The Crown and Sceptre, and this book is perfect for me because even though I feel like I know a lot about the British monarchy from like the Plantagenets and the Wars of the Roses, and kind of from there I feel like my knowledge is just completely, there are so many gaps in my knowledge, especially around British history before the Wars of the Roses, which is obviously a massive time period, and so I want to read this. Well, I've started reading this, but because basically each chapter is a monarch, which I think is a really great way to do it. It's really just kind of concise. It's not, I think it's a good way for me to discover which monarchs I want to read more about and research about and their time periods, because it just kind of gives me an overview, but it's a good kind of basis for the foundation of my like future learning, let's just say. I'm really enjoying it. If you're a complete history nerd like me, please let me know what is your favourite era, and your favourite monarch as well, because everyone says like Elizabeth I, Henry VIII, or kind of, you know, Victoria, but I'd love to know some random facts or just some random information that you have, because I really like hearing when other people are passionate about things. It's why I like going to all these talks, because you always come away knowing something more, and there's always new things for you to kind of research. And so I think for me that's what the Crown and Sceptre is really doing. It's kind of like a starting off point for me. But I'm now at the point when I've read so much non-fiction that when I read Piranesi recently, it was one of the first books that just reminded me of why I love fiction. I think I took a break from reading fiction because I wanted certainty, I wanted fact, and I don't know whether that's also just the impact of the pandemic, I'm not quite sure. or I'm just actually rediscovering who I am and the fact that I'm a massive nerd and always have been, and also the fact that I'm now thinking about going back to university or saving up to go back to university one day and actually do a bit of history, which, you know, will take me a really long time to go and do that, but I feel like I've kind of returned to myself, let's say, this year. But when I read Piranesi, I was like, wow, this is what fiction can do. It can make you think. I'm in a different world, and now I really want to read some fiction again, but I just don't know where to start. So I think the book that I'm going to start with is Bring Up the Bodies by Hilary Mantel. I've spoken about my love of Wolf Hall so many times on this channel. I do have a book review or a more kind of analytical discussion, more analytical than this video will ever be, but a discussion of Wolf Hall on my channel, which I'd love for you to check out if you're interested. And obviously this is a time period at the moment that I'm reading an awful lot about, and it's one of the time periods that I probably know the most about as well. And because of that, I think Hilary Mantel is the right... Wow, the wind is like shutting all of my windows in the flat, if you can hear that. I think Hilary Mantel is the right kind of fiction for me, because then it combines where I'm like, where my hyperfixation is at the moment, which is the Tudors, with wanting to be in a world with a brilliant world building, because I think that's also what Hilary Mantel does so well, is that it's not dry historical fiction. You are there, you can smell it, you can feel everything, and I think I need to be immersed, and Hilary Mantel, I think, will do that. It's obviously quite a chunky book, like all of kind of the Wolf Hall books, but I know that I won't finish it this year anyway, and to be honest, I don't have reading goals. I gave up reading goals a long time ago, so I don't really care how many books I read per year. I always kind of joke about the fact that I don't read that many books a year, but I publish or like work on hundreds of books a year, so I feel like I can just give myself a little bit of slack with how much I read. What I also realised when I looked at my bookshelf is I actually have 2 editions of this book, because I also have the new edition, which I absolutely love. This edition of Bring Up the Bodies came out when The Mirror and the Light came out, and I will still remember that as one of the most memorable times, I think, working at HarperCollins, because it was just before the pandemic and HarperCollins was all abuzz because this book that the whole company had been waiting for and had been budgeted in and then moved over, and yeah, I just really loved, and also they put the Mirror and the Light image on the South London, and it was just an amazing time to be a part of that company. And so I always kind of feel quite fondly, even though I didn't obviously work on that campaign, far from it, but yeah, anyway, so this is why I have 2 editions, but I think I'm going to probably read this edition, because I do love, I don't know if it's just me, this is like the excessive, the materialism that is Booktube, let's be real, is I love having a reading copy that I can just bend and read like this and make notes on. I mean, to be honest, I make notes in pencil, so I do it on whatever editions I have. It's just nice knowing that there's a copy that I can just shove in my bag and just read and not worry about bending the spine or bending the front cover. I'd also be really interested in like which edition you prefer, because I think this one is really like striking and feels kind of Tudor-y. It feels more masculine in some way, but this one is just, this for me is a thing of beauty. It's a work of art with the feathers that look like flames. It is just so beautiful. So I think I'm going to read this now, just sit down before Ben comes home. We can go off to Blackheath and Greenwich. And also, actually, one thing, my mum makes half my clothes, by the way. I don't know if you know that, but pretty much everything I wear, I will be wearing something. In fact, I even am today. Like, she made my trousers I'm wearing, but she makes me everything, and she made me another book pouch for my books. And it's perfect because it's this gorgeous red, and I have a feeling she did it because she knows I'm like reading my like Tudor-y books at the moment. But I can take it when we go out and just keep it nice and safe. I really think my mum should start an Etsy shop because she just makes the cutest little things. But anyway, I do love this because she knows how much I love to keep my books really like clean. Or just not even clean, just don't like when they get all, it's when the front covers bend. That's what, I don't care about the spine that much, it's just when they get all crushed up that upsets me. So then I can just throw my books in my rucksack without worrying about them getting damaged. Another book, also historical fiction, that I thought about reading or actually rereading is The Overbilling Girl by Philippa Gregory, but I think this is going to be a 2022 thing. I read The Overbilling Girl when I was about 14, but I must have been younger, maybe 12, because I'd read like The Six Wives of Henry VIII when I was 11, so by David Starkey, so I feel like I must have been around the same age, and I'd read any history book I could like get my hands on about the Tudors basically, and I had then discovered kind of more adult history, but The Overbilling Girl was my very first piece of like adult historical fiction, and yeah, I mean I was definitely too young, either way, whichever way we look at it, I was definitely a bit too young to read Philippa Gregory. I feel like I learnt quite a lot from these books. I was educated in more than one way. But what's interesting now, having read a lot more history and also a lot more historical fiction, is about how I would react now, having a lot more knowledge about this period, how I'd react to The Overbilling Girl. And so I'm interested actually to do a bit of a read-along of this, or just kind of a rereading when I actually document that, maybe make a few videos on it. And it wouldn't be like a hate read, like this book means so much to me, like it's the foundation of my being, and I actually think that Philippa Gregory is a great writer. There are lots of historians who then write fiction, and you can tell it is a historian trying to write fiction, and even though that it is really historically accurate and all the facts are there, it's just not a brilliant story, and that's what Philippa Gregory does really well. But I would be interested to see how I would respond to this. One, being an adult and not being a child, that's when I first read it, and also just knowing so much more. But it is a bit like, you know, there are some books that were so foundational to me when I was young, and I want to reread them to see how I feel about them, and actually I think this would be a really fun book to do that with. So if you're interested in maybe joining me, or just that as a video concept really, because we all know I'm shit at doing read-alongs, I'm shit at hosting read-alongs, so I shouldn't kind of opt in myself to do that again, but I have been thinking a lot about that recently. But yes, so yeah, I'm definitely, the hyperfixation of the Tudors is still very much there, but I think for now I'll pick Bring Up the Bodies. This cat honestly has a death wish. Has just sent me a message saying that his game is nearly finished, so I'm now going to get ready and go meet him, and we'll go over to Blackheath, because the day is basically over now. I'm just going to pick up Sybil. She will not, she's really zoomy, she will not like this. Look at the camera. No? Okay. Yes, we need to go to Greenwich now, otherwise we will just be going in the dark. The only thing I don't like about winter, and like, it's just how short the days are, and to be fair, I have had the world's laziest day today, but actually, as I said, I kind of needed that, and Sybil has been needing a lot of attention, affection. What are you doing? So I think I need to go and get ready, and also try and give this girl another little play with before we head off, even though she doesn't want to be held right now, because she wants to be free. So I'm going to get ready and then I think play with this little kitten so she's not completely wild. And I'll see you on the other side, probably for a bit more reading this evening. And yeah, I think we're going to have another kind of mini Christmas dinner today as well, which will be really nice. But I do need to move on, because otherwise we will do none of those things. I am starving hungry though, but I also know there's a really great fish and chip shop that does amazing chips. So maybe I can have a portion of chips and still come back and make dinner this evening. I think that's fine. Either way, I want to have these chips, because I don't know about you, but sometimes I just crave, I just want fish and chips. Anyway, I'll see you on the other side.